The massive creature known as Tyke slammed his scaled body against the clear wall of his cell for the 5th time that hour. The impact made a sound like thunder, but the special material didn't even crack. Tyke roared, a sound so deep and loud that the humans watching from behind their safety glass felt it in their bones. 3 weeks, said Commander June, shaking his head. 3 weeks and he's still trying to break out. Dr. Hana nodded, her eyes never leaving the alien prisoner. Can you blame him? He's the first of his kind we've ever captured. The creature they called Tyke stood nearly 4 meters tall. His body was covered in scales that shifted between deep blue and emerald green, depending on how the light hit them. 2 powerful wings were folded against his back, and a long tail with sharp spikes swept back and forth across the floor of his cell. His face was long and reptilian, with golden eyes that seemed to burn with intelligence and rage. The higher-ups want results, June said, rubbing his tired eyes. They want to know what the Draconians are planning, why they've been spotted near our outer colonies. We can't get results if we can't even feed him, Hana pointed out. He attacks anyone who tries to enter his cell. The feeding robot is in pieces. On the other side of the glass, Tyke let out another roar and clawed at the walls. His sharp talons left white marks on the surface but couldn't break through. Have the translation team made any progress? June asked. Hana shook her head. He won't speak to us. Just roars and makes those strange rumbling sounds. The space station they were on, Outpost 7, orbited a small moon in neutral space. It was meant to be a place of science and learning, not a prison for dangerous aliens. But when Alliance ships had managed to capture a Draconian 3 weeks ago, Outpost 7 was the only facility equipped to hold such a powerful being. Sir, a young officer called from his monitoring station. His vital signs are getting worse. He hasn't eaten in 5 days, June frowned. If he dies in our custody, it could mean war with his people. I'll try the new food mix tonight, Hana said. Maybe this time. She was cut off by the sound of alarms blaring throughout the station. Red lights began to flash in the corridor outside. What now? June snapped, moving to the communication panel on the wall. Security breach in Section C, a voice announced over the speakers. Unauthorized access to the containment level. Hana felt her heart stop. Section C was where they were keeping Tyke. Who would be foolish enough to break into the most dangerous area of the station? Bring up the security feeds, June ordered. The main screen on the wall flickered to life, showing different views of the containment level. At first they saw nothing unusual, just empty corridors and locked doors. Then a small movement caught Hana's eye. There, she pointed. By the maintenance shaft, the camera zoomed in and Hana's blood ran cold. A small figure was crawling out of a narrow air duct. A child with dark hair tied in 2 neat braids. Minji, Hana whispered, her voice filled with horror. That's my daughter. 6-year-old Minji dusted off her blue overalls as she stood up. She looked around curiously, then began walking with purpose down the corridor, straight toward Tyke's cell. Lock down that section now, June shouted. Get a security team there immediately. Hana was already running for the door. She doesn't know what's in there. She doesn't understand the danger. But the doors to the observation deck had automatically sealed when the alarm sounded. Hana pounded on them in frustration. Override the lockdown, she screamed. That's my child. On the screen they watched as Minji approached the clear wall of Tyke's cell. The massive Draconian had gone completely still, his golden eyes fixed on the tiny human standing before him. Why isn't she afraid? One of the officers whispered. Indeed, Minji showed no fear at all. She walked right up to the clear wall and placed her small hand against it. Her mouth was moving, she was saying something, but there was no audio on this camera feed. Get me sound, June ordered. A technician worked frantically at his console. Patching in the cell's audio now, sir. Brought you some food. Minji's voice came through, clear and unafraid. Mom says everyone needs to eat, even if they're sad or angry. The security team was still 2 minutes away, according to their tracking signals. Hana felt like she might faint as she watched her daughter talking to the most dangerous prisoner they had ever held. But something strange was happening. Tyke, who had attacked everyone who came near his cell for 3 weeks, was not attacking. He was not roaring or slamming against the walls. He was sitting down, lowering his massive body until his head was level with the little girl. I'm Minji, the child continued, holding up what looked like a protein bar. This is my favorite kind. It tastes like chocolate. Tyke made a rumbling sound deep in his throat. It wasn't the angry roar they had heard before. It was softer, almost like a purr. Can you talk? Minji asked. The grown-ups think you can, but you just don't want to. To everyone's shock, Tyke nodded his great head. I knew it, Minji said, smiling brightly. Why don't you talk to them? Are you scared? Tyke shook his head slowly. Are you angry? A nod. Because they put you in a cage? Another nod. Minji frowned thoughtfully. That would make me angry too. But if you talk to them, maybe they'll let you out sometimes. That's what happens when I use my words instead of getting mad. The Draconian made that rumbling sound again, then did something that made everyone in the observation deck gasp. He opened his mouth and spoke. They would not understand. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together, but the words were clear. The translation matrix is working, a technician said in awe. He's speaking our language. I understand you, Minji said simply. Your voice sounds funny, but I can hear you just fine. Tyke tilted his head, studying the child. You are different. That's what my teacher says too, Minji agreed. Mom says I'm special. Yes, Tyke said. Special, like hatchling. The security team had finally reached the corridor. They moved cautiously toward Minji, weapons ready. Step away from the cell, little one, the lead officer called. Minji turned and frowned at them. We're talking. It's rude to interrupt. Behind her, Tyke rose to his full height, wings spreading slightly. A warning growl rumbled from his throat. Minji, come here now, the officer said, his voice shaking slightly. He's not bad, Minji insisted. He's just sad and far from home. Like when I had to stay at Grandma's house when Mom was working. In the observation deck, Hana watched in amazement as her daughter stood fearlessly between armed officers and an alien predator. Don't hurt him, Minji said firmly. He's my friend now. And then, to everyone's shock, Tyke spoke again. The small one stays, he rumbled. She understands, she sees me. It was the most he had said since his capture. The officers looked at each other in confusion, unsure how to proceed. In that moment of hesitation, Minji turned back to Tyke and smiled. I'll come back tomorrow. I promise, and I'll bring more food. Tyke lowered his great head in what looked almost like a bow. I will, wait, little one. As the security team finally convinced Minji to leave with them, Dr. Hana stared at the screen in wonder. In just 5 minutes, her 6-year-old daughter had accomplished what teams of scientists and diplomats had failed to do for 3 weeks. She had made first contact with the Draconian, and somehow, Hana knew everything was about to change. You are grounded for a month? Dr. Hana paced back and forth in their small living quarters. Do you understand how dangerous that was? That creature has killed people, Minji. Minji sat on her bed, legs swinging. She didn't look sorry at all. He's not a creature, Mom. His name is Tyke, she said calmly, and he wouldn't hurt me. Hana stopped pacing and knelt in front of her daughter. How do you know his name? Did he tell you that? Minji shook her head. I just know it. Like I know he comes from a place with 3 suns and blue grass. A chill ran down Hana's spine. The Draconian homeworld was indeed a triple-star system, but that information wasn't public knowledge. How could Minji know that? Honey, have you been looking at my research files? Hana asked carefully. No, Minji said. I see it in my dreams. I've been seeing Tyke in my dreams for a long time. That's why I had to find him when I heard the grown-ups talking about the dragon in the station. Hana sat down heavily on the bed beside her daughter. This was more serious than she thought. What else do you see in these dreams? She asked. Minji's face lit up. I see flying. Tyke takes me flying over mountains and oceans. And there are other dragons too, some with red scales and some with gold. They live in big caves in the mountains with lots of shiny things. Before Hana could ask more questions, her communication device beeped. It was Commander Jun. Dr. Hana, we need you and Minji in the conference room immediately, he said. The Draconian is asking for her. The conference room was packed with senior staff. Commander Jun stood at the head of the table, looking both excited and worried. On the large screen on the wall, they could see Tyke in his cell. The Draconian was sitting calmly now, not raging as he had been for weeks. He hasn't eaten anything since yesterday, Jun explained. But he's talking. He says he will only eat if Minji brings him food. Absolutely not, Hana said firmly. I will not put my daughter in danger again. Mom, Minji tugged at her hand. He's hungry, and he won't hurt me. How can you be so sure? Dr. Day, the station's psychologist, asked gently. Minji looked at him with serious eyes. Because we're connected here, she pointed to her head. And here, she pointed to her heart. The adults exchanged worried glances. May I speak with Minji alone? Dr. Day asked Hana. Just for a few minutes. Hana hesitated, then nodded. I'll be right outside the door. When they were alone, Dr. Day sat across from Minji. Can you tell me more about this connection you feel with Tyke? Minji nodded eagerly. It's like when you know someone is behind you without looking, or when you think about calling your friend and then they call you, but stronger. When did you first feel it? Day asked. Always, Minji said simply. For as long as I can remember. But it got stronger when the ship brought him here. Dr. Day made some notes. And what does it feel like when you're near him? Minji thought for a moment. Like finding something I lost, like coming home. An hour later, the senior staff gathered again. Dr. Day shared his findings. I believe Minji may have a genuine psychic connection with the Draconian, he said. Her brain scans show unusual activity in the temporal lobe, the same area where we've detected high energy readings from Tyke. Are you saying they can read each other's minds? June asked. Not exactly, Day replied. It's more like an emotional bond, possibly with some shared imagery. Minji knows things about Draconian, culture and biology that she couldn't have learned elsewhere. This is unprecedented, said Chief Science Officer Kwan. We've never documented psychic abilities between different species before. Tyke is asking to speak with us, June said. He says he will explain, but only if Minji is present. All eyes turned to Hana, who looked torn. I'll be with her the whole time, June promised. And we'll keep the barrier between them closed. Hana finally nodded. All right. But at the first sign of danger, we leave. Minji practically skipped down the corridor to Tyke's cell. Hana held her hand tightly, still nervous despite the security team following them. When they reached the cell, Tyke was waiting. His golden eyes fixed on Minji, and the little girl smiled brightly. Hi, Tyke. I brought you food like I promised, she said, holding up a tray with various items. Mom helped me pick things you might like. Tyke's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. Thank you, little one. His voice was clearer today, less rough. The translation system was working better now that he was actually speaking. Commander June stepped forward. You said you would explain the connection between you and the child. Tyke nodded his massive head. Among my people, there are rare ones born with the gift of soul binding. I am such a one. Soul binding, Hana repeated. We can form a connection with compatible beings from other species, Tyke explained. It is rare and precious. In all our history, only 17 such bonds have formed. And you formed this bond with my daughter? Hana asked, her voice shaking. The bond was there before we met, Tyke said. I felt her birth 6 of your years ago. It is why I came to this part of space, to find her. Minji nodded as if this made perfect sense. That's why I've always dreamed of you. Yes, little hatchling, Tyke said gently. Our minds have been reaching for each other across the stars. What does this bond mean? June asked. What purpose does it serve? Tyke's eyes narrowed slightly. Not everything has a purpose you can use, Commander. But the bond brings understanding between species. Those who share the bond can learn from each other in ways others cannot. Is it dangerous for Minji? Hana asked, the question that worried her most. No, Tyke said firmly. I would die before harming her. In our culture, a bonded child is considered as precious as our own offspring. She is, in your terms, my daughter now. Minji beamed at this. See, Mom? I told you he was nice. Hana wasn't convinced. But you attacked our ships. You killed people. Tyke lowered his head. I was searching for the child. Your ships tried to capture me. I defended myself as you would defend your young. And now? June asked. What are your intentions now? I wish to know Minji, Tyke said simply. To teach her of my people and to learn of yours. The bond is formed and cannot be broken, but it can grow stronger or weaker depending on our choices. Minji pressed her hand against the clear wall. Can I go in and see him properly, please? No, Hana and June said at the same time. Teak made a rumbling sound that might have been a laugh. They are right to be cautious, little one. Trust must be earned. How do we know this isn't some trick? Chief Security Officer Bayek asked. You could be manipulating the child somehow. Tyke's eyes flashed. Test us then. Ask the child questions about my world that she could not know. Or ask me things about her that I could not have learned in our brief meeting. Dr. Day stepped forward. Minji, can you tell us what Tyke's favorite food is? Without hesitation, Minji answered, Crystal fish from the deep caves. They taste like... I don't know the word. Sweet and salty together, Tyke nodded. Correct. Now ask me something about the child. Hana thought for a moment. What is Minji afraid of? Something I haven't told anyone on this station. Thunder, Tyke said immediately. Not because of the sound, but because once, when she was very small, lightning struck near your home and started a fire. She remembers the smell of burning and the fear in your voice when you carried her out. Hana gasped. Minji had been only 2 years old when that happened. They never talked about it. He's right, she whispered. Minji looked up at Tyke with complete trust in her eyes. Can I call you Dad? Since you said I'm like your daughter now? The question hung in the air. Everyone watched as the fierce Draconian's expression softened. I would be honored, little one, Tyke said, his voice gentle. And just like that, everything changed. The dangerous prisoner was now connected to them through this small child. The feared alien was now somehow family. We have much to discuss, Commander June said, looking between Minji, Hana, and Tyek. This changes everything. Tyek nodded. Yes, and there is more you should know. My people will be looking for me. When they come, you must be ready. What do you mean your people will be looking for you? Commander June leaned forward, his face tense. Are they planning an attack? Tyke shook his massive head. Not an attack. A rescue. I am important to my people. Important how? Chief Security Officer Bayek demanded. The Draconian was silent for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. I am what you might call a royal scientist. I study the bonds between species. Minji, who had been quietly eating a snack while the adults talked, looked up with bright eyes. You're a prince? Tyke made that rumbling sound that they now recognized as laughter. Not a prince, little one. But my family line has served the royal clutch for many generations. Dr. Hana frowned. So you're saying a Draconian rescue mission is on its way here? How soon? I do not know exactly, Tyke admitted. But they will have noticed my absence by now. Perhaps 2 of your weeks, maybe less. The room erupted in worried voices. Commander June raised his hands for silence. We need to contact Alliance headquarters immediately, he said. If the Draconians send warships, no. Minji's small voice cut through the noise. Everyone turned to look at her in surprise. No warships, she continued, her face serious. Tyke is thinking about a big ship with gold markings. It's not a warship. It's for diplomacy, Tyke finished for her. Yes, that is correct. The collective will send the ambassador vessel. They will want to talk, not fight. Hana stared at her daughter. You can see his thoughts? Minji shrugged. Sometimes. When they're big thoughts with pictures. Dr. Day was taking notes frantically. Fascinating. The bond seems to be strengthening already. This is all very interesting, Beck said impatiently. But we need to prepare for a potential alien fleet arriving at our doorstep. Diplomatic vessel or not, we should be ready for anything. June nodded. Agreed. But this could also be an opportunity. The first official contact between humans and Draconians, I can help. Tyke offered. I can teach you our customs, our greetings. Through Minji, I can show you how to speak to the ambassador without causing offense. Hana looked worried. You want to use my daughter as some kind of translator? She's 6 years old. Not just a translator, Tyke said gently. A bridge. One who understands both worlds. Minji tugged at her mother's sleeve. I want to help, Mom, please? Tyke says it's important. Hana looked down at her daughter's earnest face, then up at the massive alien who was somehow connected to her child's mind. The situation was beyond anything she had ever imagined when she took the posting on Outpost 7. We'll take it one step at a time, she finally said. But Minji's safety comes first, always. Tyke bowed his head. On that, we are in complete agreement. Over the next few days, a strange routine developed. Every morning, Minji would visit Tyke's cell with her mother and at least 2 security officers. They would sit on opposite sides of the clear barrier and talk for hours. Tyke taught Minji about Draconian culture, their love of music, their complex family structures, their belief in the sacredness of bonds. In return, Minji shared human stories, songs, and games. The scientists watched and recorded everything, amazed at how quickly the bond between them grew stronger. Watch this, Minji said one morning, holding up a drawing pad. She closed her eyes for a moment, then began to draw. Her small hand moved quickly across the paper, sketching a landscape none of the humans had ever seen. Tall, twisted spires of rock under 3 suns, with creatures that looked like a cross between birds and fish swimming through the air. The southern cliffs of Drakon, Tyke confirmed when she showed him the drawing. Where I hatched many years ago. She's never seen images of the draconian homeworld, Dr. Day whispered to Hana. This is coming directly from his mind to hers. Hana watched her daughter with a mixture of pride and fear. Is it hurting her? This connection? All her tests are normal, Day assured her. Better than normal, actually. Her brain activity shows patterns I've never seen before, like her neural pathways are being upgraded somehow. Upgraded? Hana didn't like the sound of that. Not in a bad way, Day hurried to explain. It's like, imagine if you suddenly gained the ability to see a color that humans normally can't see. Her brain is adapting to process new types of information. Across the room, Minji was teaching Tyke a clapping game. The sight of the massive draconian carefully tapping his huge claws against a little girl's palms was so strange that several of the security officers were trying not to laugh. Pat a cake. Pat a cake, baker's man, Minji sang. Bake me a cake as fast as you can. Tyke followed along, his deep voice rumbling the nursery rhyme. When they finished, Minji clapped with delight. Your turn to teach me a game, she said. Tyke nodded. We have a game called Mind Seek. Close your eyes and picture a place you know well. Minji closed her eyes. Okay. Now hide something in that place, something small in your mind. Minji's face scrunched up in concentration. Done. Now I will try to find it, Tyke said. He closed his golden eyes as well. The room was silent as the strange pair sat with eyes closed, completely still. After about 30 seconds, Tyke opened his eyes. You hid it in the air vent above your bed, he said. The blue marble your father gave you before he left. Minji's eyes flew open. You found it! That was too easy. Let me try again. Hana felt a chill. Minji's father had indeed given her a blue marble before he took a job on a distant colony 3 years ago. It was her most treasured possession. But how did Tyke know it was from her father? The bond is getting stronger, Commander June observed, watching from the observation area. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know, Hana admitted. But I'm not sure we could stop it now even if we wanted to. On the 7th day after Minji first met Tyke, the alarms on Outpost 7 blared to life. Everyone rushed to their stations. Unidentified vessel approaching, announced the automated system. Size massive. Configuration, unknown. In Tyke's cell, Minji had been showing him how to make paper cranes. At the sound of the alarm, the draconian went very still. They're here, he said simply. Commander June's voice came over the communication system. Dr. Hana, bring Minji to the command center immediately and... Bring Tyke, too. Hana stared at the speaker in shock. Bring Tyke? But he's a prisoner. Not anymore, June replied, his voice tense. The ship that just arrived is 3 times the size of our entire station. We're going to need his help. The security officers looked nervous as they deactivated the barrier to Tyke's cell. The massive draconian stood slowly, careful not to make any sudden movements. I will not harm anyone, he promised, looking directly at Hana. You have my word. Minji walked right up to him and took his massive clawed hand in her tiny one. It's okay, Mom, Dad will help us. It was the first time she had called him Dad out loud. Tyke's golden eyes seemed to glow brighter for a moment, and he gently curled his claws around her small hand. Yes, he said softly, I will help you face my people, but you must be prepared. They will be very interested in Minji. A human child who shares the bond is unprecedented. What will they want with her? Hana asked, fear clear in her voice. Tyke looked at her with those ancient knowing eyes. They will want what I want, to protect her, to teach her, to learn from her. But they will also see her as proof that our species can coexist. She may become very important to the future of both our peoples. Minji looked up at the towering, dragon-like alien who had somehow become a father figure to her in just a few short days. Will I get to see your home someday? She asked. The place with 3 sons? Tyke nodded slowly. I believe you will, little one. But first we must greet the ambassador and explain this most unusual situation. As they made their way to the command center, Hana watched her daughter walking hand in hand with the alien who had once been their most dangerous prisoner. Somehow in the space of a week everything had changed, and she knew deep in her heart that nothing would ever be the same again. The command center of Outpost 7 was filled with nervous energy. Officers moved quickly between stations, checking readings and preparing defensive systems just in case. On the main view screen, a massive ship hung against the backdrop of stars. It was unlike any vessel the humans had seen before. The ship was shaped like a long oval with sweeping structures that resembled wings extending from its sides. Its surface gleamed with a golden bronze color that seemed to shift and move in the light of the nearby sun. "It's beautiful," Minji whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. Tyke nodded. "The ambassador vessel Sunwing. It is one of our oldest and most honored ships." Commander June turned as Hana, Minji, and Tyek entered the command center. Several officers gasped at the sight of the Draconian walking freely among them. Tyke was so tall that his head nearly touched the ceiling, and he had to duck slightly to avoid the overhead lights. "They're hailing us," reported Communications Officer Sook. Her hands trembled slightly as she worked her console. "Put them through," June ordered. Straightening his uniform, the view screen flickered, and the image of the ship was replaced by the face of another Draconian. This one had scales in shades of copper and gold with eyes that were a deep amber color. Elaborate markings decorated the ridges above its eyes. "I am Ambassador Nari of the Draconian Collective," the alien announced in a melodious voice that was higher than Tyek's deep rumble. "I have come for Tyke, Royal Scientist of the Third Clutch." June stepped forward. "I am Commander June of the Human Alliance." He stopped as Tyke moved to stand beside him. The Draconian bowed his head respectfully to the screen. "Honored Ambassador," Tyke said in his own language, the translation system working to convert his words for the humans. "I am well and unharmed." Ambassador Nari's eyes widened. "Tyke, we feared the worst when you disappeared. Why are you freely standing among these humans? Were our reports of your capture incorrect?" "The situation has evolved," Tyke replied. He looked down at Minji, who stood beside him without a trace of fear. "I have found a bond child among the humans." There was a moment of complete silence on both sides. Then Ambassador Nari leaned closer to the screen, her eyes focusing intently on Minji. "A human child? You have formed a soul bond with a human child?" Her voice was filled with disbelief. Minji stepped forward, her head held high. "My name is Minji. Tyek is my dad now." Hana placed a protective hand on her daughter's shoulder, but Minji showed no sign of nervousness. Ambassador Nari studied the little girl for a long moment. "This is unprecedented. The council must be informed immediately." She turned to look at someone off screen and spoke rapidly in the Draconian language. "What is she saying?" June asked quietly. "She is ordering her crew to prepare for a formal meeting," Tyek translated. "This is a significant moment for my people." Nari turned back to the screen. "Commander June, I request permission to board your station with a small delegation. We must discuss this development in person." June hesitated only briefly. "Permission granted, Ambassador. We will prepare a suitable meeting room. I will arrive in 1 hour," Nari said, "and I wish to bring a gift for the bond child as is our custom." Before anyone could respond, the communication ended. The view screen returned to showing the massive Draconian ship. "A gift?" Hana looked worried. "What kind of gift?" Tyke made a reassuring rumbling sound. "It is tradition. When a bond is discovered, the child receives a token of welcome from the collective. It will be something meaningful, not dangerous." "I like presents," Minji said happily. Commander June turned to his staff. "Prepare conference room 1 for diplomatic visitors. Security team. Standard diplomatic protocols, visible but not threatening." As the command center burst into activity, Hana pulled Tyke aside. "What does this mean for Minji?" she asked quietly. "Will they try to take her away?" Tyke's golden eyes met hers. "They cannot break the bond, and they would not try. But yes, they will want Minji to learn our ways, perhaps to visit our world someday." "She's just a child," Hana protested. "My child, and she will remain your child," Tyke assured her. "But she is also now part of something larger. The bond makes her important to both our peoples." Minji, who had been listening, took her mother's hand. "Don't worry, Mom, I'll always be your little girl. But I want to learn about Dad's home, too." Hana looked down at her daughter's earnest face and felt a mixture of pride and fear. How had their lives changed so completely in just a week? Conference room 1 had been transformed. The long table had been removed to create an open space with comfortable seating arranged in a circle. Fresh plants from the station's hydroponics bay added color to the room, and the lighting had been adjusted to a warmer tone that Tyke said would be more comfortable for Draconian eyes. Minji had insisted on wearing her best dress, a blue one with stars on it that Her mother had packed for special occasions. Hana had brushed her daughter's hair until it shone and tied it back with matching blue ribbons. "You look beautiful," Hana told her, trying to hide her nervousness. "Do I look like a proper Bond child?" Minji asked Tayek. The Draconian nodded solemnly. "You look perfect, little one." A chime sounded, announcing that the Draconian shuttle had docked with the station. Commander June straightened his uniform one last time. "Remember," he told his staff, "this is the first official diplomatic contact between our species. Let's make a good impression." The doors slid open and Ambassador Nari entered. In person, she was even more impressive than on the view screen. She stood nearly as tall as Tyke, her golden copper scales gleaming in the light. Behind her came 4 other Draconians of various colors: green, blue, deep red, and silver gray. "Welcome to Outpost 7, Commander June said formally. "We are honored by your presence." Nari inclined her head. "The honor is ours, Commander. This day will be remembered in our histories." Her amber eyes moved to Tayek, who bowed deeply. Then she looked at Minji, who stood between her mother and Tayek. "So," Nari said softly, "this is the human child who shares the bond." Minji stepped forward without hesitation. "Hello, I'm Minji. Thank you for coming to see us." A murmur ran through the Draconian delegation. The silver-gray one leaned forward, studying Minji intently. "The bond appears strong already," he observed. "See how she shows no fear?" "May I approach the child?" Nari asked, looking at Hana. Hana nodded stiffly, her hand squeezing Minji's shoulder once before letting go. Ambassador Nari knelt down, bringing her massive head closer to Minji's level. "Little one, do you understand what it means to share a bond with one of our kind?" Minji nodded. "It means Tyke and I can share thoughts and feelings. He shows me his home in my dreams, and I can feel when he's sad or happy." "And how does the bond feel to you?" Nari asked. Minji thought for a moment. "Like a warm light inside me. Like having a friend who's always there even when they're far away." Nari looked pleased. "You describe it well." She turned to one of her companions, the one with deep red scales. "The gift, please." The red Draconian stepped forward, carrying a small wooden box carved with intricate designs. He handed it to Nari, who presented it to Minji. "This is for you, Bondchild," she said. "A welcome from the collective." Minji accepted the box carefully. "Thank you. May I open it now?" Nari nodded. "Please do." Everyone watched as Minji opened the box. Inside, nestled on a bed of soft material, was a pendant. It was a small crystal that seemed to contain swirling colors, blues, greens, and golds that moved and changed as the light hit them. "It's beautiful," Minji breathed. "It is a soul crystal," Nari explained. "Formed from the minerals of our homeworld. Each one is unique, like the bond it represents. When you wear it, Tyke will always be able to sense where you are, no matter the distance between you." Minji lifted the pendant from the box. It hung on a simple chain that looked like silver, but had an unusual shimmer to it. "May I put it on?" she asked her mother. Hana hesitated, then nodded. She helped Minji fasten the chain around her neck. The crystal rested just below her collarbone, its colors swirling gently. "I can feel it," Tyke said suddenly. "The connection is stronger now." Minji nodded eagerly. "I can see the 3 suns more clearly in my mind." Ambassador Nari stood up, looking satisfied. "The gift is accepted. Now we must discuss what comes next." Commander June gestured to the seating area. "Please, let's all sit down and talk." As the humans and Draconians arranged themselves in the circle, Minji naturally took a place between her mother and Tyke. The pendant at her throat glowed softly, a physical symbol of the invisible bond that had changed everything. "We have much to discuss," Ambassador Nari began. "The discovery of a human bond child opens new possibilities for our peoples, but it also presents challenges we must address." Minji reached out and took Tyke's massive clawed hand in her small one. With her other hand, she held her mother's. In that moment, she was the living bridge between 2 worlds. A little girl who had fearlessly approached an alien dragon's cell and found a father. And as the discussions began, no one could predict just how important that bridge would become. 3 days had passed since the arrival of the Draconian delegation. Outpost 7 buzzed with activity as humans and Draconians worked together to establish the first official agreement between their species. Minji sat cross-legged on the floor of what had once been Tyke's cell. The clear walls remained, but the door stayed open now. The space had been transformed with colorful cushions and drawings that Minji had made pinned to the walls. Tyke sat across from her, his massive form curled comfortably as he watched her play with the soul crystal around her neck. "It changes color when I think of different things," Minji observed, watching the swirls of blue and green shift to purple and gold. "It responds to your emotions," Tyke explained. "When you are happy, it shows bright colors. When you are sad or afraid, it becomes darker." Minji looked up at him, her eyes serious. "What will happen now, Dad? Will you go home with the other dragons?" Tyke's golden eyes softened at her use of the word dad. It still filled him with a warm feeling every time she said it. "That is what we must decide soon," he said gently. "The ambassador and your commander have been talking about many possibilities. I don't want you to leave," Minji said, her lower lip trembling slightly. The crystal at her throat darkened to a deep blue. Tyke reached out one massive claw and very carefully wiped away the tear that had formed in the corner of her eye. "Whatever happens, little one, our bond remains. Distance cannot break it." Minji nodded, but she didn't look convinced. "But it's not the same as having you here." Before Tyke could respond, Dr. Hana appeared at the doorway. She had dark circles under her eyes from the long meetings and discussions of the past few days. "There you are," she said with a tired smile. "Commander Jun has called a meeting. They want both of you there." Minji jumped up. "Is it time to decide?" Hana nodded. "Yes, sweetheart. It's time." The conference room was packed with both humans and draconians. Commander Jun and Ambassador Nari sat at the head of the table, a stack of digital tablets between them. "Thank you all for coming," Jun began when everyone was seated. "After much discussion, we believe we have reached an agreement that will benefit both our peoples." Nari nodded. "The bond between Tyke and Minji has opened a door that we did not know existed. It offers us a unique opportunity for understanding between our species." Minji sat between her mother and Tyke, the soul crystal glowing brightly at her throat. She could feel the tension in the room, the importance of this moment. "We propose the establishment of a joint cultural center," Jun continued. "A place where humans and draconians can live and work together, learning from each other." "A neutral space," Nari added. "Neither human nor draconian territory, but something new." Hana leaned forward. "And where would this center be located?" "There is a planet in the neutral zone," Jun explained. "Terraformed but uninhabited. The Alliance has held it in reserve for future development. It has suitable environments for both our species. We would build the center together," Nari said. "A place of learning, of science, of cultural exchange." Minji looked up at Tyke, her eyes wide. "Would we live there? Together?" All eyes turned to the little girl and the massive draconian beside her. "That is our hope," Nari said gently. "You and your mother would be invited to be among the first residents along with Tyek and other scientists from both our worlds." Hana looked worried. "You're asking us to leave our home, our life here." "We are asking you to help build something new," Jun corrected. "Something important. The first true bridge between our peoples." "And if we refuse?" Hana asked. A heavy silence fell over the room. Tyke shifted uncomfortably. "The bond cannot be broken," he said finally. "But it can be mighty stretched. I could return to my world and Minji could stay here. We would still feel each other, still share dreams and thoughts, but it would be more difficult, more painful for both of us." Minji's hand went to her crystal, which had darkened to a deep indigo. "I don't want that," she said firmly. "I want us to stay together." Hana looked at her daughter, seeing the determination in her young face. In just a short time, Minji had formed a connection with Tyke that was unlike anything Hana had ever seen. The bond was real and it was powerful. "What would my role be at this center?" Hana asked, her voice softer now. "You are a xenobiologist," Nari pointed out. "Your expertise would be invaluable. You would help lead the scientific exchange program." "And Minji's education?" Hana pressed. "Her future?" "She would receive the best of both worlds," Jun assured her. "Human teachers and draconian mentors. She would grow up understanding both cultures in a way no one ever has before." Minji tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Please, Mom, I want to go. I want to learn about Dad's world, and I want him to learn about ours." Hana looked into her daughter's pleading eyes, then at Tyke, whose golden gaze held a hope he didn't dare express in words. "I need time to think," she said finally. That night, Hana couldn't sleep. She stood by the viewport in their quarters, looking out at the stars and the massive draconian ship that hung among them. A week ago, Her biggest worry had been finishing her research paper on alien microbiology. Now she was considering moving to a new planet to help establish the first ever joint human draconian settlement. All because her daughter had somehow formed a psychic bond with a creature from another world. "Mom?" Minji's small voice came from behind her. "Are you okay?" Hana turned to see her daughter standing in the doorway of her bedroom, clutching her favorite stuffed animal, a blue dolphin she'd had since she was a baby. "I'm just thinking." "Sweetheart," Hana said, opening her arms. Minji ran to her mother and hugged her tightly. "Are you scared about the new planet?" Hana smiled sadly. "A little. It's a big change." "I'm a little scared too," Minji admitted, "but also excited. And Tyke says it's okay to feel both at the same time." Hana stroked her daughter's hair. "He's right about that. He showed me the planet in my dreams last night," Minji said. "It has big oceans and mountains and forests. And there's a valley where they want to build the center, with a river running through it." "It sounds beautiful," Hana said. Minji nodded against her mother's chest. "He says there are flowers there that sing when the wind blows through them, and animals that look like big fluffy clouds that bounce instead of walk." Despite her worries, Hana laughed at the image. "That I'd like to see." "We can see it together," Minji said, looking up at her mother with hopeful eyes. "You, me, and Dad." Hana felt a pang at hearing her daughter call Tyke Dad so naturally now. Minji's real father had left years ago for a job on a distant colony, and rarely called anymore. In just a few days, Tyke had shown more care and attention to Minji than her biological father had in years. "What if it doesn't work out?" Hana asked softly. "What if humans and draconians can't live together peacefully?" Minji touched the soul crystal at her throat. It glowed with a steady, warm light. "Tyke and I can live together peacefully. Why not others too?" Out of the mouths of babes, Hana thought. Her daughter's simple logic cut through all the diplomatic complexities and adult fears. "When did you get so wise?" she asked, kissing the top of Minji's head. "Tyke says I've always been wise. He says that's why the bond chose me." Hana held her daughter close, feeling the steady beat of her heart. Perhaps Tyke was right. Perhaps there was something special about Minji that had called across the stars to form this unexpected connection. And perhaps it was time for Hana to trust in that connection. The next morning, Hana walked into the conference room where Commander June and Ambassador Nari were reviewing the final details of their agreement. Tyke was there too, along with several other officials from both sides. "I've made my decision," Hana announced. The room fell silent, all eyes turning to her. "We'll go," she said simply. "Minji and I will join the cultural center." The relief on Tyke's face was immediate and profound. The massive draconian bowed his head, a gesture of deep respect and gratitude. "A wise choice," Ambassador Nari said, her copper scales gleaming in the light. "Your daughter will make history, Dr. Hana, as will you." "I'm not doing it for history," Hana said firmly. "I'm doing it because it's right for Minji, and because I believe in what you're trying to build." Commander June smiled. "Then let's make it official." As they signed the documents that would change the course of human-draconian relations forever, Minji burst into the room, her face alight with joy. "You said yes," she cried, running to her mother. "I felt it through the bond." Hana lifted her daughter into her arms. "Yes, sweetheart. We're going on an adventure." Minji looked over at Tyke, her eyes shining. "We're going to live together, Dad. I can show you all about humans, and you can teach me about dragons." Tyke's rumbling laugh filled the room. "Yes, little one. We have much to learn from each other." As the humans and draconians around them smiled at the strange little family, a human mother, her daughter, and the alien dragon she called Dad. Minji's soul crystal glowed with the brightest colors anyone had ever seen. It was the beginning of something new. Something that had started when a brave little girl approached a cell that everyone else feared, and found not a monster but a father. And somewhere in the vast universe, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter for it.